Guys, this week we do have Baylor Tech out in Lubbock. The Bears will head out there to face the 5-1 Red Raiders. So my first question, Kirby Hocutt and Mack Rhoades probably aren't gonna like it, but let's play what if anyway. They're probably not listening to this podcast. Um, so back in 2020, when Matt Rhule left for the NFL from Baylor, Joey McGuire was a serious candidate for the Baylor job. And he was especially beloved by Baylor's players at the time. So let's pretend that Joey actually got that job instead of Dave Aranda. How would the trajectory of these two programs have changed? What do you think?
Well, that's a great question. Um, based on what Joey has done here, I tend to think that Baylor would be in a better situation now than what the Bears are right now. Based and it's not really to disparage Baylor or Dave Aranda, but Texas Tech was not in a great place when Joey McGuire took over, and he's immediately upgraded the talent. I mean, his first two recruiting classes here at Tech were ranked in the 20s nationally, which was the first time in a little over a decade
Hmm.
that Texas Tech has had back-to-back recruiting classes ranked as high as these are. And while they've been waiting for those, most of the guys in the top 20 classes are guys who still are redshirting or uh, are not starters yet. But in the meantime, they've hit the transfer portal. They've developed guys who are already here on campus, and now Joey McGuire, in 2.5 years as Texas Tech's coach, his record is 20-12, and that's the best start in 32 games since Steve Sloan back
Hmm.
in 1975 to 77, which 76 Texas Tech teamer Steve Sloan went 10-2, and so really, I mean, it's hard to do better at Tech, considering the backdrop of the last decade. The previous decade had been pretty ugly, not good at all. It's hard to do better under those circumstances than what Joey McGuire has done at Texas Tech. And I tend to think if he were at Baylor, it might be possibly even better just because of proximity to the recruiting hotbed. So
And certainly he would have had the continuity there. I mean, he was already established in that program. Who do you think Tech would have hired at the time if they hadn't gotten Joey?
well, actually, Joey was not Texas Tech's first choice. It's the guy that they really wanted most and were impressed by when they interviewed him was Jeff Traylor, um, who ultimately, of course, got the job at UTSA. And what Jeff Traylor told the Tech interviewing committee was that he didn't really feel right about leaving the job that he had at that time after he'd only been there for I think 1 year, his first year. Um, and so just didn't think it was the timing was right. Now there are
Hmm.
tech folks who feel like that was a convenient excuse. He was just holding out for a bigger job, maybe like UT or something. But um, so Joey was probably their second choice. And if let's say okay, they didn't get Jeff Chadler. Let's say they didn't get Joey. I don't know. There's a contingent of folks out here who wanted Art. I don't think Art ever would have been hired out here. Um, I just think there was too much opposition to him, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and so it would have been interesting to see if Joey had not if they had not gotten Joey, who
Right.
Texas
Right.
Tech would have gotten.
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that Don nailed it. That I think Baylor would look a lot like Texas Tech does right now. There's a lot of momentum there. And, he mentioned the recruiting class last year. Last year, Tech had the best in the Big 12. Baylor was 62nd in the nation, which was almost dead last in the Big 12. So there's a difference there. But I think that, you know, and you look over that span that Joey has been at Texas Tech. He's won 20 games. Aranda has also lost 20 games at Baylor. So it's the dichotomy there is, jarring a little bit. But what Baylor does have, and Dave does have, and I guess Joey was on that staff too, is a Big 12 title. And whoever's guys that was, it doesn't really matter. Dave won a Big 12 title, and that's something that Tech can't say. So how much time does that buy him? And that's got to mean something. That's something that Tech definitely does not have.
Right. It's fun to play what if and to say, well, if Joey had been hired, does Baylor still win the Big 12 title that year? Well, like you said, he was on the staff anyway. It's it's probably not lost on people that they kind of went downhill after Joey left. Um, I mean, what he does well really contrasts with Aranda, and that's things like he's very gregarious. He's very entrenched in Texas high school football culture and all the coaches around, and thus makes good connections and signs good recruiting classes. Um, so yeah, I just thought it was an interesting thought exercise.
Well,
So guy,
here's one other thought on that, and that is, as you guys very good rightly pointed out, would Baylor have been as good that next year had it been Joey instead of Aranda? That's definitely a fair point because Texas Tech's, to the degree that Texas Tech had hesitation and pause on hiring Joey McGuire, the reason was because he had not been a coordinator at the college level. So there was, even though they liked and acknowledged all his positives, there was still a degree of keeping their fingers crossed
mhm.
because of, he had not led the big group of guys. He had not led an entire offense or defense, let alone a team. And Joey, countered that by saying, when I was head coach at Cedar Hill, I was coordinating everything and talking to teachers and administrators and everything. So, and he said straight up that when he was at Baylor, I mean his ambition was to be a head coach, and so he said he was taking notes. He was like a puppy dog around Matt Rhule about things that he was going to need to be aware of and need to do when he became a head coach.
Well, and I think the fact that he was the associate head coach gave him a good view of
Yeah.
that too.